Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Later in the program, for Love of Liberty, we will preview the PBS film that chronicles centuries of African-American service in the United States military. That is coming up. First tonight, a wellness plan for your brain. Joining us are Michael Patterson and Roger Anunsen, co-founders of mindRAMP and Associates. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
The basic theme, as I understand it, is creativity plays a big role.
Sure does.
Yeah, creativity, we like creativity in particular because one of the things that we talk about when you're trying to work on brain health is you have to get cross-training. Just like you cross-train for your body, you need to cross-train for your brain. And creativity, we've developed this idea of a 7-part creative cycle. And if you actually go through each of the different phases of the creative cycle, you're using different parts of your brain, different cognitive functions. You're also having to navigate your way all the way through. So creativity and lifelong learning, we think, are very important ways to do mental health.
Right.
In particular, because they sort of hit multiple parts of the brain.
All right, so we have an aging population, more people living longer, and everybody who's at that certain stage starts to focus on, how do I stay sharp?
That's right. And the earlier you start, the better. One of the facts now is that more people will live past 100 than anyone ever dreamed possible. One statistic is half of people who are born in this century in the Western world will live to be 100. The fear is that if your body outlives your brain by a decade or two, who's going to take care of these people? So we've got a baby boomer population that may, in fact, put it to the test. Can we prevent, delay, slow down cognitive decline long enough that you die from something else? And that's the goal of staying in shape, keeping your body in shape, but also keep your mind in shape.
How can we prove any of this stuff? I know all sorts of MDs and scientists are researching various things. You guys aren't scientists. You come at it from a different approach.
No, we are not scientists, but I worked for AARP and ran the Staying Sharp program. We worked closely at that point with the Dana Alliance for Brain Initiatives, which was a organization that worked with the top neuroscientists in the country, so I worked very closely with them. But there's a lot of evidence that's out there, and we very much stick with evidence-based research. So everything we say, there is science, foundation behind that.
And Jeff, think of this as a neuroeducation. We're taking two languages. We're speaking neuroscience and learning the evidence-based facts that we want to interpret into plain English and show you why it's solid science. We're in a golden age of neuroscience. It's been described as the most exciting frontier of human knowledge since the Renaissance. And it's because we have machines that can look inside Michael's brain without harming him and see what's going on and finding out information that is overturning what we thought were truisms. 95% of everything science knows about the human brain was learned in the last 30 years. And who knows what the next breakthrough would bring.
A lot of people out there feverishly working on crossword puzzles, trying to keep the synapses going. Good idea, you think?
Good idea, but if you only do crossword puzzles and you do them every day, that's good, don't quit. But the crossword part of your brain will be strong, but what about the rest of your brain? What about getting sleep and nutrition, getting physical exercise? So keep doing crosswords, but challenge your brain to do a different kind of puzzle. Do something else every so often.
We were talking before the show about taking one of those rigorous scholastic tests, the SAT, the GRE, at middle age or older. What's supposed to happen to your brain as it ages? I mean, it's not supposed to work like it did when you were 20.
Well, everything in the body slows down, and there's an attrition rate that happens to everything in the body, and it happens to the brain just like it does.
I was hoping you were going to say we're going to get smarter as we. Well, attrition is sort of the.
Well, there is attrition.
There's some good news coming. Good news coming on that point.
Yeah, but dementia is an illness. It's not normal aging. And one of the things that when you're talking about cognition is to recognize that there are certain things, like we mentioned speed. Speed of processing may slow down a little bit, but all you have to do is take more time to actually learn. older people can learn just as well. But things like wisdom and experience and skills, developing skills, all of those things take time. The more time that you have, the more you can accumulate. And it's also putting together connections, making connections that you hadn't made before. The longer, if you keep doing, thinking in that sort of creative way, the brain can continue to be creative, and go on an upward trajectory.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about the maintenance of your aging brain, you can give us a call at the number on the screen or email us by visiting our website at mpt.org. Tell me about the company. When did it get started? And I know you put on something at the Smithsonian.
We were there last Saturday for 7 hours, Jeff. It was sold out 2 months ago, and after 7 hours you'd think that aging brains, mature minds over the age of 50 primarily, would be tired. They were exhilarated because there's so much hope in neuroscience that breakthroughs are showing that older brains slow down in a sense and do things less well, but they do more things in a different way that are better. So aging brains aren't better or worse. They're just different. And Michael and I started collaborating just a year ago, and we found that there is a real thirst for knowledge about neuroscience because it's a do-it-yourself battle.
Going back to your question about the aging population, and if dementia and Alzheimer's continue, they are associated with age, and if we don't do something to prevent this, we could have a real, critical health crisis. So part of what mindRAMP is the mission of mindRAMP is to do all we can to prevent the decline, cognitive decline, and prevent disease, and instruct people, get them to understand the science so that they can take action through their own behavior, using the plasticity of the brain, the ability of the brain to, it's malleable. You can actually change the structure of your brain by what you do.
So if you concentrate on some new activity and arts related perhaps, and put my head into an MRI machine before and after, you'd see something different? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you would, literally. There are things like juggling. They did a test on juggling where they looked, was it the hippocampus that they were looking at?
What you've got are now, take a picture of Jeff's brain and do a mental exercise for a period of 90 to 120 days. Take your same brain picture, the part that you're exercising will physically grow bigger. So what we've got is the ability to say it's no longer use it or lose it, it's use it and improve it.
Sounds good. Let's take a phone call. Andrietta in Baltimore City. Andrietta, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to know if... Okay.
You're on.
I wanted to know if dementia was hereditary. My mother passed away from Lewy body dementia, and my father has some dementia right at this time. He's 85.
Sorry to hear that. We'll get you an answer. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thoughts?
There is one gene that is associated with Alzheimer's in particular, and if you have that gene, then you're something at like 25% greater risk of having Alzheimer's, but it doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's.
But I want Andrea to hear this.
Yeah.
There's a 25% greater risk that you would get Alzheimer's if you do nothing, and that's the key. Andrea, you have to work harder than someone else does, but if you do something, you start lowering that risk. So even if that risk is there, you're still in control of most of that percentage.
Well, that's what everybody's worried about. I mean, give me some concrete things. So what should I do differently next week?
We talk about 6, we call them cogwheels now, because the idea is they kind of link together. You want all of them to be working at the same time. But we talk about physical exercise. There's a lot of evidence that the more you do physical exercise, you actually lower your risk of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. Mental exercise, challenge, novelty, what we talked about, creativity and so on. There's a lot of evidence that socialization is very good for your brain.
So think of isolation as being fatal for your brain, and it really is. We've got 2 studies, one out of Chicago and the famous Nun study. Those subjects that isolated and weren't socializing, they ended up having Alzheimer's symptoms far greater numbers than those that socialized who had the plaques and tangles but didn't have the symptoms. So the goal is to fight the symptoms. But the other cogwheels, cognitive wheels, that have to be all important are sleep. We've got socialization. You've got the ability to have the right nutrition. So it's the fuel you're getting, the oxygen you breathe in,